Hey everybody, welcome to Flash on Target. We are your hosts. You can follow us online at stayontargetpodcast.com. That's where all of our main feeds are and everything.
Yes.
Yet again, we don't have a video intro yet.
Nope.
We do have that awesome audio intro, and we're working on the video intro as we speak. And also, as we speak, like literally behind the camera, there's probably like some intern. No, we don't have interns here.
I wish we had interns.
That'd be amazing.
That would be awesome.
We are actually on the iTunes store now. They finally pushed us on through that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you can subscribe. We tweeted that link out this morning.
Yes, the best way to do it is to find that tweet or go to stayontargetpodcast.com and there's a link you can click on the sidebar. If you search for Flash on Target, it's still not showing up. That will resolve itself as it always does whenever we submit new podcast feeds soon.
Yep. Okay, so Chris, this episode called "The Fastest Man Alive."
Yes.
What were your initial thoughts like going into this? What were you expecting, and was it what you expected? This is the second episode of a series, so like viewing it through those kind of lenses is what I'm kind of looking at. Lenses is. How many S's can I put on the end of that?
So, like my initial thought as we start going through the episode, I really like all the day-to-day stuff that they're showing him doing. You know, saving people from fires and like whatever else he's doing. I love that. I like that street level kind of stuff, dealing with just criminals, and
the way that looked too, like the fire, whenever they did that shot with the front of the house, and like he zooms this person out, that looked amazing.
And they're not messing around with these effects,
not at all. And I also thought like that would have looked cool in 3D as well. Like that would have been really cool, just zooming at you and putting the kid right in front of your face, you know, saving him from the fire.
Like they alluded to at the end too, whenever he got back on the streets, you know, and she said there's an armed robbery in progress, and like that's cool. Like that's what I like, and that's something that I always liked about Arrow was that he was fighting these like no quote unquote normal villains. Okay, that being said, I wasn't a huge fan, and I'm still not a huge fan of them. You know, like they've got to find the metahuman of the week and fight him.
Yeah.
While like it looked cool, it just felt very Smallville-esque.
Yeah.
And it made me want to throw up.
You know, it was. I was kind of disappointed about that too. What I was even more disappointed about was whenever they killed him.
Oh, okay.
At the end of the episode, it's like I feel like we're gonna get into the same cycle of like disposable villains, if you will, that Arrow actually was in season 1, and we're gonna ruin a bunch of very good villains. So
I mean, this is the thing though. I don't even care about these villains, man. Like I care more about who his boss is. Is everything working?
Everyth's working. I'm just turning up the microphone a little bit here. So,
all right.
For the live feed.
Yeah. Audio feed. They can't tell what's going on.
Yeah. They just hear you like losing track of what's going on.
Yeah. I'm easily distracted.
Yes.
John.
It happens. Sorry about that, guys. Now the volumes look normal.
There we go. Like I'm more interested in what his boss is up to, and like I really like that dynamic where he's like, it's almost like. We know he has some kind of like ulterior motive, but he's kind of protecting.
Barry. You mean that boss? Like the what's his name? Harrison.
Yeah,
that guy.
Who are you thinking?
I was thinking of Joe, his dad slash boss.
No, like as a bad guy, I'm more interested in Harrison than I am like these bad guys of the week. Like next week, it looked on the preview, we're gonna have some guy who can morph into something. Wind.
Yeah. So like. This week it was Multiplex. I was excited. I was very excited because there was a run since the New 52 of The Flash that Francis Manapul and Brian Buccellato were writing and illustrating, and it was awesome. It was a different character than Multiplex, but he had kind of that same power where he would multiply, but in fact he would multiply and it would be a completely different person. Like they would be unique human beings, like where they would talk to each other and they would argue with each other.
That's cool.
And after like 3 or 4 days, they would die. Like they could never stay alive, so they were trying to find a way to stay alive. That was their whole thing. They were stealing this technology to try to stay alive. And that character was, I was hoping that it was that.
Yeah.
But then whenever it came out and it was like Multiplex and literally it's just like he, you know, I don't even know.
Like they're like mindless clones. Basically.
Right.
I mean. And I will say, the thing I did like about this villain, was the science behind it. You know, where they're like, hey, you know, like they are only active whenever he is He's basically a remote control, and he can make them do whatever he wants. But whenever he is not around or he's not controlling them, like this one is just dead. It just stands here. You know, like I really liked that aspect of it, and the way she created a new one. That was really cool.
So something else that was interesting, you mentioned the science. I like that they actually are addressing what does Barry's powers do to him. You know, what scientifically and metabolically is happening, and it was like he was just having that runner hunger. You know, he was just running out of calories, and you know, and he would just pass out or whatever. So I like the fact that we're investigating all of those things.
Yeah,
that was really cool. Whereas, like, I feel like some other superhero shows, movies, whatever, don't really address some of those smaller day-to-day things. But I was wondering how they would address it, because the Flash in the comics and on like every cartoon that he's ever been on, like Justice League or whatever, he's always hungry, he's always eating, always like owning some hot dogs or whatever. And so it's like to see them actually address that on the show, I was very pleased with the way they did that.
Yeah, I liked that. I liked it made it feel more like, you know, he's still human. He's still a man.
Yeah.
And like where I don't want it to lead to is where it's like, okay, well, eventually like the Flash doesn't have his powers.
Yeah.
For some odd reason.
Like a depowered thing. Yeah. You really don't like that. And I'm right there with you, where it's like that's an overplayed, overdone superhero thing where like a depowered superhero doesn't serve any purpose to me. It's not as interesting a story.
It's just I mean, it brings them to, it's like this is a normal show then, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll go there, but I think that kind of opens the door to that, so that's just a side note.
Yeah.
I really liked the. What did you think of the interplay between him and
his dad, Joe?
Yes. Well, both him and what's her face?
Oh, Iris.
Yes.
Okay, so the idea of Iris and like the awkwardness, and I mentioned like last week on the podcast that there's going to be two reasons for that to be awkward, and one is he's covering up for her and her boyfriend. With his boss and his stepdad, but it's also that he kind of digs her. So it's like I think until like that was the more apparent awkwardness this episode, and I wasn't as much a fan of that. But I will say that I think whenever we see Felicity kind of come in, and I think that might be happening next week on the show, or like whenever the Arrow crossover kind of happens and we see maybe some extra other love interests come into his life, potential love interests come into his life, I think we're going to see a little bit less awkwardness with him and Iris. I don't know, do you think that they're building towards something with their relationship where it's like they're meant to be together, that sort of situation? Or
did you see, was there a preview of Felicity in next week's episode? Is she in next week's episode?
I think so. Like, I think I saw in like one of the fast things, where it goes by really fast, and so your subconscious picks it up and makes you excited for it. Maybe. I don't know.
I'm honestly less excited for that to happen than I am for her current boyfriend just to get out of the picture. Like, it's, I think, like, honestly, her and him being together feel awkward. Like, it's weird. And I think it's supposed to, because you're looking at this with the perspective of Barry.
Yeah, for sure.
And but like just the way that they act together is weird. It feels really weird. It doesn't feel genuine. And that's either the writing, the acting, or both.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is they kind of try to get around it and like point it out, because like that's an interesting,
specifically point it out.
Yeah, because that's an interesting way. Like whenever something doesn't feel right, or there's like a story beat that doesn't work, one of the writer's tools in their tool belt is to point it out.
Yeah.
To say, hey guys, take a look at this, and that's weird. Like whenever you have like Deus Ex Machina, like where you have like an act of God happen to characters, and it's like, boy, I sure am glad that that crazy guy saved our necks that time.
Right.
Well,
it's just, I mean, it's kind of like
I'm saying it's kind of a poor way to do it. So.
Yeah, it's a poor way to do it. It's also like it's a way to do it without having to provide any backstory.
This is true.
Hey, this is what it is, and that's that's just what it.
Speaking of backstory,
okay.
The flashbacks. How did you feel about the flashbacks?
Are they gonna keep going through the whole series? Like,
this is a question because like there was in the Twitter sphere, as I was live tweeting the thing, I was just kind of trying to keep up to date, and I always, on this one in Arrow, I always try to keep up to date with how people are feeling about it. And there's quite a few comments where it's like, okay, so this is a flashback show. Like, are we going to rely heavily on this? They didn't rely heavily on this episode, and I will say there are things about those flashbacks from this particular episode that I loved, absolutely loved, but I don't think we need it. Like, I really don't think we need to revisit that territory that we have with the Arrow. I think this show could set itself very far apart from Arrow if it didn't go back to the flashbacks. And one thing I do love about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., bringing up the competition here, is that they actually don't rely on flashbacks ever. Like, they never go back. So you're always, like, in the action. There's never any really break to the action. It's just rapid fire, like, what's happening, what's the story turning and beating, all that sort of thing. So, I don't know.
I really liked the flashbacks in Arrow Season 1. Okay? Didn't like them really that much in Arrow Season 2 until about the halfway point when they actually started relating to the story.
Right.
With Slade.
Yep. Where you said, I see where this is going.
And the Mirror Crew. Right. And Sarah.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, Season 2 flashbacks were pretty much pointless in Arrow. Season 3, so far, I really like them because it's a different setting. It provides, additional backstory that does make sense. It doesn't, relate directly to each episode like they did in Season 1.
Yeah.
But it works really well so far because it's an intriguing world. This is the thing about the flashbacks. Like, if we're going to keep going down this route, you have to make both the current world interesting and the flashback world interesting. Mm-hmm. Right now, the flashback world is not that interesting.
The flashback world.
Oh my goodness. And that's the thing,
hashtag flashback.
Like, right now, all it's trying to do is basically be like Barry as a kid. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But he doesn't have his powers then. And, are we just going to have him be angry and running away all the time?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, the interesting thing, the things I will say, that I liked about it, moving forward, I'm less sold on them, right? But for this episode, it was nice to see Joe. Like, the development on Joe West, his dad, or stepdad, was amazing. Yeah. I loved that interplay. That was the strongest point of this episode for me, was the way that they interacted together, both in the past and in the current.
Right.
And so to see Joe, a completely, he's just a side character, basically. To see him get that much development, to see him actually, both in the past and in the present, to change his mind and to kind of develop from one spot to another, where he ends this episode in a completely different spot than he started it.
Yeah.
And to see that happen is really nice, and to see the way that those two actors, all the scenes that they had together, even the one where he insults Joe or whatever and says, "You're not my dad." Yeah. It's while that's harsh, Barry, but I agree with you. There's a lot of things that were going on there that I loved about that whole scene and about that whole setup. But moving forward, I don't think we need the flashbacks. I really don't. I don't want to see them. Right. I wanted to see the ones today, but maybe this wasn't the episode to do that, and maybe it was the episode 3 or something like that.
Right.
But yeah.
I really liked, his interaction with Joe. And I loved the way where it ended up, where Barry basically was like, "Yeah, you have been my dad for the past, however many years of my life."
Yeah.
And that was cool. Let me speculate for a second.
Okay.
What if we come to find out that his father really should be in prison and did have something to do with his mother's death?
Ooh.
Like at the end of the season or something like that.
And what's interesting is, in the comics, there's been all sorts of ways that this is played out. Depending on which version of the Flash that you are jumping on board with, what year you jump on board the comics with, and which one you accept as your favorite one. It's really interesting. That's an interesting theory, and it's also, I almost expected them to do something that they did in the comics as well, where his dad basically told him, "You've got to move on with your life, Barry," and said, "I did it," and basically lied to his son and told him, "I did it," in order to get him to move on with his life and to stop searching for his, the actual, murderer, that sort of thing.
Why would he do that, though? And unless he knows who did it.
Or unless he thinks it's an arbitrary thing, and Barry's wasting 30 years of... if your kid's wasting 20, 30 years of his life searching for, to try to free you,
Maybe.
it's it would be a tough call,
I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Sure, I could see that as a parent, but I could also see where okay, no one believes you except for your son.
Yeah.
I know he's a kid, but you don't want to necessarily destroy that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did like the way that they played it off on the pilot episode with the whole, "As long as you believe me, that's enough."
Right. So, I love that.
It's so good.
And so
so good.
You go from that dynamic to where he's telling him or trying to keep him
Yeah.
from coming to see him and all that kind of stuff, and like I don't know, like
Yeah.
okay, I guess what would best how we could best see that is if they did a flashback that showed the relationship before his mother was killed, because there's really no way to know, like,
there's no point of reference.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So maybe that's a necessary flashback. Do you think it's a necessary flashback, or do we like throw that in some current day dialogue where it's like, I hated my dad for so long. Whatever, just some sort of weird way to throw it in,
I mean, you can throw it in either way, yeah. Like, just give me the information. If you're gonna do it, if you have flashbacks in your show, then just go ahead and do it in a flashback. Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so about Multiplex and like the interplay at the end there between the boss of Star Labs and that other big
who was
rich
he?
guy. I mean, he was like the competition basically.
Okay.
And so like they didn't like each other before Star Labs ruined the city. So man, why would he like him now? So like that whole situation. What did you think of like their rivalry, and what did you think of the way that it ended?
I liked all of it. Like I mean, that whole idea is really cool. And like I said, it's kind of interesting looking at the interplay between Harrison and Barry, and that Harrison, he's protecting him, but only so that he can serve his own purposes. It's not like, hey, I need to take care of Barry. So that's really interesting to me. Again, we brought this up. I'm not too hot on him killing him.
Yeah. Just because this was a great rivalry, a great kind of villain, and a great actor.
I thought it was going to. So, like, this is what I'm looking for in this show moving forward as far as villains go. I'm looking for these long-term villains that can actually be a villain. Like Slade was in the second season of Arrow. And like Malcolm Merlin is in the first season of Arrow.
Something you can invest yourself in villain-wise.
Exactly, and so like...
Other than Harrison.
Well, that's the thing. You don't know what Harrison's agenda is, and so you don't know whether he's a bad guy or not.
Right.
They're kind of they're painting him to this gray area, and they could go either way with him. But I want someone who is evil, and is the bad guy, and like this is the guy you root against.
Yeah, for sure. I loved in the show, and there was a lot of things about this episode that I really liked plot-wise, where it was like things that I didn't expect to happened. They call Barry, and the dude is standing there.
Yes.
And they go to break, and then they come back from break, and he's there. It's like, they call him, and he's like, I'll be right there. And immediately, like seconds later, he's there,
Yeah, well, they show this kind of like quick whoosh or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's there, and that was good. I also liked the way it ended with him going out. And I thought we ended at this point last episode.
Yeah.
Where he's going out to do all these things, and they're going to be his eyes and ears.
Team.
Yeah, his team. And then we start this episode, and they're not his team.
Well, I think everybody was like sold on it except for the one scientist. What's her name? Let me look up her name real quick. Caitlin Snow.
Yeah. So like, I do really like him having a team though, because, like I said, I love the thought of him working this street level crime.
Yep.
And helping out people in fires,
Yeah.
and whatever else he's going to do.
Yeah.
I love that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I hope we see more of that. Like, I'd like to see him, like, what does he do in, for a bank robbery? What does he do in a hostage situation, or, a terrorist threat?
It would be nice. And I guess we sort of, like, Arrow kind of treads the territory, or did in the first episode, or the first season, of, like, this organized crime type thing, like mobsters. And, like,
I'm sure it exists.
Like that. And so, like, I would love to see him take on some of those things, and to maybe have some of those things align, where it's like, let's take out the Flash, or like, just something more nefarious under the surface, that's organizing, all of the antagonism against him and against the city and that sort of thing. So
I like the contrast between this and Arrow, and the fact that, remember in the first season of Arrow, people were looking for this vigilante who's out killing people, and he's painted in a very bad light, whereas, there's like this website that's you can post your sighting of the Flash, and he's being benevolent and doing good things. And
it was funny. One of my thoughts whenever Ira showed him that
Yeah.
was she said, and these people were just whooshed out of danger, and I was thinking, if he's not careful, she's gonna start calling him the whoosh.
Yeah.
And he's gonna.
She said it like 2 or 3 times.
And he's gonna have a terrible superhero name until he can rebrand himself. He's got to get on top of that branding, man. Get himself a marketing marketing team.
Well, I mean, obviously Harrison wants to call him the Flash.
Right.
I mean, how's he gonna pull that off?
I don't know. Basically like even Superman, like the first person that wrote a newspaper article about him called him Superman, and so he was called Superman from then on.
Right.
So
they were calling him the Streak. That's what they would call it. They were calling him on the newspaper.
That's funny.
And so, like, I mean, for all I know, his name is the Streak.
The Streak. That one.
The red, or what did the other guy said? The red mask? No, the red.
I don't know.
He said like the red masked man or something.
Yeah,
like that.
something like that. Because there was the Hood for a long time on Arrow.
Over Arrow, yes. No one called him Arrow,
Yeah,
and they were like, "How do
the
we?"
Vigilante or the Hood? Or
I don't even
whatever.
remember how he started calling the Arrow
I think he coined it. He was like,
for the newspaper.
I'm not the Vigilante, I'm the Arrow, or something like that. Like, I think he started calling himself that, and so, like, people just picked it up. Like,
That's funny.
I guess people in police reports were just like, all right, this guy says the Arrow. Like, he just leaves a business card sitting there.
Right.
Just, you know.
Well, yeah, like
The Arrow.
when did that even happen? We were on Arrow right now, anyway.
Yeah, sorry. That would be season 2. In
Okay.
season 2, whenever he decided he wasn't going to kill people
And he
anymore.
wasn't gonna be the vigilante anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Flash, I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, okay. Before we do quotes, do
Okay.
you want to do laces up or laces down?
I thought
Like
you said
boots on, boots off. There we go. Let's
Yeah.
do boots on,
I'm
boots
not,
off.
not too sure about the laces.
The laces, because I don't
Seems
even
like it
know
would take a long time.
do his boots have laces?
I mean, you would think, unless
They've
they're
got to.
They're Velcro, and
They've got to.
Who does Velcro anymore? It's a fashion faux pas.
They're like speed laces where like they have those curly cues and you just pull them.
Those were awesome.
Those were awesome.
I feel like they didn't work as well as they should have, though.
They didn't, but I mean, come on, that was a decade ago.
Yeah, that's over a decade, dude.
The technology has got to have gotten better since then.
I actually haven't seen those since
I
then, so
haven't.
maybe they haven't.
It hasn't gotten any better.
Yeah, I say boots on.
You probably
And
don't see it anymore because they're all straight now. 'cause
And I
everybody's
really
been
like
pulling
the-
them so much.
I really like the tone of this. I really like, the relationships, and that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the conflicts,
Yeah.
because these are very shallow, one-note villains right now.
Right, and with killing off this guy and with the only residual bad guy really being Harrison right now, and we don't even know if he's a bad guy.
Right.
Other than killing a dude, he's a murderer now.
I mean, he's a
bad guy. On that level.
I mean, on that, yes, based on his behavior, yes, he's a bad guy,
Yes. Anyway,
and he can still see the future. We do have to. Maybe that's why he calls him the Flash.
because he
That's
knows
where
that
he
he's
came up with the
supposed to
name.
be called the Flash.
Yes.
So he's coining that term.
And he did say he will be called the Flash.
That's true. That's true. So maybe he maybe like that's like the name is like a non-issue now. Maybe we're just gonna start calling him the Flash.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I feel like he needs
I
to come
forgot
out
about
there
that part
and
of it.
the whole like I am Iron Man thing. Where
Yes.
he needs to address the public as the Flash.
That would be funny. Especially if he's just in a suit, you don't know who he is.
Yeah,
So,
I mean it's just like yeah, and plus he could probably vibrate his molecules so fast you couldn't even see him, like it was just a blur
Yeah.
standing there.
Oh, and this is
The
so I-
treadmill, by the way, was amazing. I will say that
Yes.
the awesome treadmill. That's a thing from the comics too, like where you start. In fact, some of them he'll start storing up the friction energy that he's and like power the entire city.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
so we'll
the,
see if something like that happens.
So that was it.
Cosmic treadmill.
That was cool. The other part that was cool was whenever he was mixing whatever he was mixing.
Yep.
And he basically was his own centrifuge. I think that was cool.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
And this lab, like, where is this lab? And is this only his lab? Like, that was the question I had because it's like he's got this entire map of like proving his dad's innocence. Is he the only lab technician they have in the city,
I don't know.
or is he like a privately guy? I don't know.
He has gone back there. He was back there last episode whenever he got his powers or whatever.
Right.
And he went back there afterwards too. But then these other policemen I'm not sure if that's at the police station.
Right.
Or if I thought that maybe like was his own like loft.
His own place.
I don't know.
Maybe. And I mean, because it would make sense that Joe could just walk into his place or whatever.
But
Because
it
his
seemed like there were
stepdad,
people in the background and stuff.
yeah, that were working on
So
stuff.
I assume it's part of the police station.
Interns Xeroxing things.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Chris. So boots on.
Yes, boots on.
Boots on. All right, so let's get some quotes in here. We have Iris saying, "How fast can you get home and change?" And Barry goes, pretty fast." So yeah, that was a good one. And then Joe says, "Until a few weeks ago, I thought the fastest guy could run a mile in 4 minutes, not 4 seconds." And Barry says, "Bet I could do it in 3. Not relevant." It's a good one. I liked it. Let me see. And then Joe says, "Your ability to multitask is truly remarkable." the way you can embarrass me, the captain, and yourself all at the same time. So yeah, it was at the very beginning.
Nice.
That was basically all the quotes I had. The only other one was the one. Let me see if I typed it out. Where the guy says he's basically the guy. It doesn't sound like he wanted to be saved. Some people, when they break, can't be put back together again. Yeah. So I mean, there was the obviously getting rid of the bad guy. I don't know, man. I guess you can't have a bunch of superpowered people running around the world unless you have a place to put them, a prison to put them in that'll keep them. But I hope that we don't have the same problem the Arrow did, where we're just killing guys every week.
It's true. Yep. Well, I mean, yeah, that and Smallville.
Yep.
Like, that's it. Like right now, it's leaning more towards the Smallville side.
Yeah, just because of the light tone and that sort of thing. And actually, I saw today Smallville premiered today. Whenever we're recording this, however many years ago.
On Thursday.
So, yeah, Thursday.
Yeah, interesting. That's interesting.
Yep. So,
Cool.
I mean, it was like over a decade or something like that. So it's like superhero shows have come a long way since then.
Mm-hmm.
And but let's hope that we don't retread that same territory.
Cool. All right, that's it for this week. You can check us out online at stayontargetpodcast.com.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be back here next week with the third episode.
Yep. And we've also got Arrow on Target. That's the Arrow podcast. And yeah, we'll be live streaming that next as well. So we live stream every Thursday night.
Yep.
And I'll send out a tweet obviously before we do that. So, and then that goes live on YouTube and on iTunes later that night.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's it for this week. We'll see you next time on Flash,
Flash
on
on
Target.
Target. I swear I'll get better at this sometime. I swear. And